Hey everybody, this is Erman Brady with Ermantrage. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It is August 7th. I know some folks overseas, so it's August 8th already. I thank you all for being here. We do have a global audience today, people from around the world, filmmakers, film lovers alike. So thank you all for being here today. We do have a very special guest, Peter Robertson, cinematographer. A little bit of his background. Peter is an award-winning Irish cinematographer. Peter came to prominence when he won an IFTA award and Haskell Wexler Award for Best Cinematography for Song for Raggy Boy, directed by Aisling Walsh. His impressive work in TV includes some of the most successful dramas in recent years, including Vikings, Peaky and Black Mirror. He was nominated for an ASC Award for Vikings episode Hell. Please welcome Peter Robertson. Peter, thank you so much for being here today, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks.
Thanks for doing this with us. Do you do a lot of Zoom Q&As or Q&As in general?
No, this is my first, really. I haven't done one before, so yeah.
Well, this will be a fun time regardless, and we're happy to have you. Like I said earlier, we have folks from all over the world, actually. Looking forward to hearing from you. So something I like to ask everybody, super trivial question, super simple question, but I like to get to know people's backgrounds and how they got started. Because it's always different. It's always a different path when it comes to how people get started in the entertainment industry. So for you, what was it about entertainment that attracted you to pursue a career in the craft of filmmaking, and why specifically cinematography?
Well, I have to be honest, and I really stumbled into it. I had when I was young, I had a seasonal business in my early 20s that I also stumbled into because I drove my father around. It involved a lot of driving, and he died when I was 21, and I was offered these contracts, and it meant that I worked for 3 months a year, and I earned enough that in those 3 months to keep me going for the rest of the year. So in my 20s, I have to admit I was quite lost. And I tried many things. I traveled in the States. I lived in LA for 8 months. I came back. I worked in bars. I drove cabs in New York. I traveled to Africa. I did a load of stuff, but I was always looking for something. And if I'm becoming boring, just tell me to shut up. But I opened a business in Ireland with a friend of mine. And the business didn't do particularly well. In fact, I went off traveling, and we got somebody else to run it. So after a year, we closed the thing, and it was retailing videos, video equipment, and televisions. So I took the video recorder and a camera, and I made a really terrible video for another friend of mine who had a carpet selling business. We put it on a loop, we edited it, put it on a loop, and he played it in the Ideal Homes exhibition. This was in 1980-ish. And he rang me, I didn't think anything of it. He rang me 3 days later and he said, "Peter, I've sold more carpets in the last 3 days than I've sold in the last 6 months. And they're all looking at your fucking video." So that's where it started. And it was completely, I really didn't expect. I just took that video recorder and the single tube camera and decided to do something with it. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I had a bit of help from another guy, one of the salesmen that were trying to sell this stuff that didn't sell, and he knew a bit about it, and he really helped me because I knew absolutely nothing about it. And I was in my late 20s at that stage, so it wasn't. And I'd been going to films from a very young age. I would always loved the cinema, but the thought of becoming a cameraman in Ireland in 1980 and making a living out of it, that someone would have shot you. It would have been easier to become an astronaut because everybody had left. Like, the place was depressed. There was no work. There was very few cameramen in the country, and it was almost like a closed shop. But I weaseled my way in there, doing corporate videos. And I got that again through luck, because the guy I applied for this course, there was 400 applications for 22 places. And the guy that I'd made the carpet selling video for in this Ideal Homes exhibition, I was talking to him, he's a friend of mine. And I said, I've applied for this course, but there's 400 applications. And he said, it was a state-run course. And he said, that's funny. My secretary's married to this guy that runs these courses. So that's how I got onto the fucking course, you know, through the back door. And I discovered that everybody else had done the same. So I did feel bad initially, but once I got on that course, it was a video production course. And it basically, it was, they were involved with government bodies. So they were paid a lot of money to make videos, high-end videos for semi-state bodies. And they used people like me. And as soon as I got everybody on the course, 22 people, most of them wanted to be directors or producers. No one wanted, I think 2 of us were interested in camera work. And I also did editing. I decided to learn about editing there. And it was a Sony 3-tube camera, a Sony 300, I think it was, big heavy thing, and which was broadcast standard and low band or high band U-matic edit suites. And I just learned really quickly because I was shooting. Now it was rudimentary. It was documenting like digital computers and things like that. Right. The lighting was illumination. There was nothing particularly creative about it.
I remember those in film school, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. You know, just because I was I was shooting and editing at the same time. And, you know, I learned very quickly, you know, very fast. And also, once I picked up the camera, that was it. I knew, like, I had no idea. I had no burning desire to become a cameraman. You know, it was really by default. But once I got my hands on the camera, that was it. I knew this is what I wanted to do, which was brilliant because, you know, I'd have probably drunk myself to death by, you know, because I wasn't particularly happy. And I was the envy of all of my peers because I could work for 3 months a year.
Yeah.
But then I was drifting a lot and drifting into some bad, well, they weren't all bad, but you know what I mean.
Your first television gig as cinematographer, were you like, what am I doing? Like as your first gig, did you have that anticipation or that fear of not doing well for your first television gig?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, cinematography is a learning process, and really, you know, the best way to learn is by doing it. And you know, I was lucky in so much as working in Ireland, I had a foot in many areas, in so much as, you know, after I was doing the corporate video stuff, I started doing news and sports and magazine programs and things like that. And Northern Ireland was kicking off big time. So the BBC and people like that were looking for a lot of people to do news stuff. And then, you know, I started to get, after that, I got a documentary series that was shot in 16mm. And that started, I suppose, my creative lighting career rather than my illuminative lighting career. And, you know, from there, you know, then I started to learn, I did a course, Steadicam course. So, and then, you know, films started to happen in Ireland, big overseas films through the tax breaks of the early 90s. So I'd been at it for like 6 years or 8 years before that, doing other stuff. And slowly, because I was the only Steadicam operator in the South, I started to get some work dramatically. And I did that because I wanted to move out of, you know, I wanted to start shooting film, basically. But yeah, so I had experience on film sets before I started to light drama. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I was able to watch other people. You know, I was lucky to enough. In '94, I think I worked on Michael Collins as a second camera, a B camera and Steadicam, and Chris Menges lit that. And you know, so that he was a triple Oscar winner, I think, at that stage. So it wasn't that I followed his lighting, but his style of lighting, the way that he went about it, it was very practically sourced. And that was my philosophy as well. So if there was a window, or if there was a fire, or if there was a practical light in the room, he would augment that source, or he would just try and use that source. So that sort of cemented my lighting philosophy, if you like. So, you know, it encouraged me.
I like to ask cinematographers this question because it varies. So, you work on a television show, so each episode has the same feel to it, has the same tone, has the same lighting pattern, you know? So, for you, working with other cinematographers on the same show, are there challenges and maybe some benefits to having, you know, the kind of the same style for each episode?
It depends on the show. You know, I've just done a thing for Sky or HBO. I can't remember. I think it was Sky Atlantic, in Manchester last year, and I came on as the second block on the second block, but because it was a science fiction thing, and because though my episodes were set on different planets, I could really do what I liked. I didn't, you know, and there was a very little bit that was based on the original spaceship or whatever. That I, you know, I more or less followed what had been done before, but it wasn't like you have to make it look exactly like it was. And because then they were different worlds, well, then anything went. And in fact, I went far away from what they were doing, because the first 3 episodes, well, you know, were done in different planets again, so it didn't matter. So to answer your question, yes, I mean, you do have to follow a style if that style has been cemented. But, you know, I worked on another show recently, well, 3 or 4 years ago in Malaysia, that was Indian Summers. Maybe some of my Indian colleagues, friends worked on that show. And the first episode was very stylized, and I got word from not everything was going particularly well. And I was asked onto the show as a sort of a firefighter, in so much as to bring it back together, or to just sort of make it not as difficult. And, you know, I didn't go a million miles away from what was done on the first few episodes, but I did my own thing, and that was fine. So it just depends, you know, it's different. It just depends on the show. I mean, yeah, that's all right. Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
Again, I went into that, and I stuck to, you know, there'd been many episodes before my episode. I think it was on the second series. I was on the the last episode of the second series. But, you know, yeah, I did follow what had been done before. But I was never, no one ever said to me, including the director, that, you know, oh, Jesus, you know, you're not doing this. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I did what I just did, and that was it, you know, and it didn't divert too much from what they'd done before.
Right. So speaking of Peaky Blinders, it was your favorite moment on the show shooting? Because I mean, I'm sure a lot of people on here love the series. So, what was your favorite moment shooting for that series?
I think my favorite moment was the very final shot, which was done in a oneer, and which is very unusual for TV, because they usually manage to cut it up one way or another. But it was a single shot, and I thought that I didn't do the camera operator, Barney Davis, did an amazing job. And yeah, no, it was a cool shot, and I really liked it. There was loads of moments on that show that I enjoyed. It was a great show to work on, and yeah, so, but the last shot was cool.
I'm sure a lot of people here also love Vikings. Tremendous show. Were there any challenges with any shot that you want to pull off? Because it is a very physical type of show.
Well, the trouble with Viking, yeah, no, it is a very physical show, but it's just, there's an amazing crew. There is an amazing crew that, everyone in every department is really well tuned and are very experienced. And, and even in the camera and grips department, like, there was one instance, there was this like Normandy landing, where the Russian fleet or something was coming in to, land. And the director, we were on this beach down in Wexford, or in British, and it's sort of sand dunes and then a large stretch of beach. And the sand dune, I'd say, was 50 to 100 feet high. And the director says, I'd like a crane on top of the sand dune. And I thought, fuck, you want a crane on top of the sand dune? And I mean, just walking up the sand dune was difficult, but no problem. The crane was on top of the sand dune. That was it. There, anything you want, whatever you want to do, they'll do it. It's really an amazing show. But we have everything, it's not, like Peaky Blinders is quite punches way above its weight, because it doesn't have everything. You have to be, in a way, you have to be more creative on Peaky Blinders than you do on Vikings, because Vikings, you have everything you want, anything you want, whatever you want, drones, fucking Steadicam, scuba cam, whatever, cranes, within reason. I mean, there's always a limit. Yeah.
So, of all the programs you worked on, I am a little biased because I love, 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 love Black Mirror. It's one of my favorite shows in recent years. You photographed Black Museum, which
Yeah.
was also one of my favorite episodes of that season. I think season 3, season 4. But talk about working at that season 4. Someone said season 4 in the group chat. So please talk about working on that episode.
Well, again, it was with the same person that I worked with on, the same director that I worked with on Peaky Blinders. And he was really responsible, like, for reigniting my career, because in the early 2000s or 2010 or so, I thought my career had more or less was petering out, because I just finished doing a faith and family show and something for the Sci-Fi Channel, which was a lot of fun. It was fun to do, but it was pure shit, like virtually unwatchable. And I thought, well, I'm going nowhere. And then suddenly Colin comes along and he asked me to do this show in Dublin called Ripper Street. And that completely, from going downhill quickly, completely altered the course of my career. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in. This was our third collaboration, Black Mirror, and we got on really well together. So the funny thing was, when I read that Black Museum script, I thought it was a really great script. And the weakest script I thought was HMS Callister, and I was sort of quite pleased that I wasn't doing that. But latter, I mean, it turned out that HMS Callister was a really brilliant episode, and it also looked brilliant. And I thought, I can't remember who shot it, but he did, or she did, a fucking brilliant job of recreating that whole, Star Trek atmosphere.
Yeah, love that episode too.
I thought it was really great episode. And it's funny though, it just shows you from reading a script. I thought, I really did think this was crap. And how wrong can you be? Anyway, I did enjoy. I loved shooting. Probably the best part of that shoot was actually there was one shot in London that was I can't remember. It was outside that big building that was meant to be New York, and I thought it was so New York. The whole setup I thought was brilliant. And then the other thing I really liked was Spain, which was meant to be Nevada or somewhere. I can't remember where, but that was good as well. I enjoyed that.
So as DP, you read all the scripts for the season?
I didn't read all of them, but I read a few of them. I probably
Okay.
wasn't meant to read all of them.
Okay, I was like, hey, how'd you see those episodes? Okay, so you kind of take a little peek.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wasn't posting them on, whatever. I
Right.
just read. No, I think it was quite. I think they gave me some scripts actually.
Okay.
It was fine. It was fine.
So we have more audience questions. So I'm gonna jump over to the audience questions. I'm gonna do a few questions, folks, and then like I said earlier, we're gonna turn off the recording and continue asking Peter questions. So our first one is from Manon. Manon asks, for a person who is starting, is a film school a place to start, cinematography specifically, and then get into the industry from there, or is it okay to directly get in the industry under someone and then climb your way up? So film school versus just working for somebody directly and working your way up.
Well, I know young guys in Ireland, and they've got it's both ways are totally valid. The trouble, if you go into film school, there's no trouble. Is that you will probably meet a director that's like-minded, and you can work your way up like that, and you can make a go of it together. And I know a few, I certainly know two close friends of mine. In fact, that really worked for them. Um, and the other way is to work your way up. I didn't take either of those avenues. I just shot stuff, and I didn't weasel. I worked. I just worked my way in. As I said, I started doing Steadicam. That got me into drama. Then I started lighting commercials. Then I started lighting TV drama. And slowly building up a portfolio. Do you know what I mean? So all of those ways. The thing about going into the camera department, which is totally valid, it's a long road. But I suppose unless you're very lucky and you do something that's very noticeable early on, it's all a long road. Like I've been at it 40 years nearly. So but it's what's kept me alive. Otherwise, as I said, I'd be dead.
Thank you so much for that question, Manon. Up next, we have Ridham. Ridham, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, welcome. How you doing?
Yeah, fine.
Good to see you, sir. Go ahead and ask Peter your question.
Yeah, sure. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Rhythm.
Yeah, I'm from India actually, and when I just saw his ad on Instagram, like Erman's, he's organizing this interview, I was really jumping off excitement. Like I'm a big fan of Black Mirror and Vikings actually. So sorry, I'm taking this long. So my question for you is, what are the differences you experienced between short films and a big film projects?
Well, everything's relative. And, when I was shooting shorts or short films, that's as much of a challenge. I remember, that it's obviously isn't the same challenge, but you still, because you're working your way up and you're learning, it is a challenge. I remember my first day on Vikings, which was by far the biggest show I've worked on. the unit base was down by this Slane Castle, which is down in a sort of a hollow. The castle's up in the hill and the hollow's down below beside the river. And it was just so huge with makeup, tents, all of that, extras. And I was driving down there and I was just thinking, how am I going to manage this lot? But it sort of slides, because you have such a well-oiled machine, and also you have a certain amount of confidence in your own ability at this stage. As daunting as it was, once 1 hour, 2 hours into the day, I wasn't even thinking about it. It was just, it just flowed along. And I have to say, Vikings is like that in a way. It sort of carries it carries people along, And I'm not saying there's weak links, but there have been some weaker directors, and and the machine has kept going.
Okay.
And anyway.
Okay.
I
Thank
hope
you.
that, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ridham. Good to meet you, sir. Up next, we have Krishna, followed by Rushabh, Kirat, and then Arijit. Hopefully I'm saying these names right, folks. Krishna and Vrajab up next. Krishna, are you there?
Yeah. So,
Hi.
sir, hi. So, I wanted to ask, can you tell me something about what does linear footage mean?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Linear footage.
I think she's asking what linear footage means.
I haven't a clue. What does it mean?
That's why I'm asking you.
Linear footage. I've no idea. Sorry, I don't know what you. I've never heard of linear footage.
I'll look it up. Krishna, and then get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll look it up for you. Up next, we have Vrashab, Kirat, and Arijit.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for getting me here. Nice to see you, Peter. I had one. I have actually it's a two-parter question. So I wanted to know basically how do you coordinate with a director and how do you understand his vision? I mean, where is the point when you realize the vision of the director and what are the challenges that come with it? And what do you expect from a director in general as well when you start working with them?
Well, that is the most important aspect, I think, of a cinematographer's job. Like, if you can get into the director's head and understand what they want, well, then your job is easy. It's when you don't get into the director's head or they don't know what they want, then things can be a little difficult. But if you understand what they want and they can express what they want either through visual references, drawings, pictures, films, anything, I don't mind, reading material, anything at all, whatever they have in their mind, the way that they would like to interpret the film there, because it is their film. It's not so much about how you want it, it's how they want it. And sometimes they don't have an idea and then it's over to you. Then you have to, but if it's a truly symbiotic relationship, then you get into their head and they're able to tell you what they want, and that's when it works really well. And like myself and Colm, that guy I mentioned earlier that reignited my career, we were very like-minded. So we almost have a shorthand as to what we're going to do or how we're going to do it. And the only thing is he always likes to cross shoot. So from a lighting point of view, that's a little difficult. So we have come to blows occasionally, but he wins all the time. So it's fine.
Okay. Thank you so much for answering that.
No problem.
Good to meet you, Vrashab. Up next, we have Kirat, Arijit, Beverly, then Lakshya. So Kirat, you're up next.
Hi, Peter. Big
Hi.
fan and love from India.
Thank you.
So, my question is a bit technical. So, if there are two lights of different color temperatures, say the key is a daylight balance light, and there is a tungsten practical behind the subject, what will you keep your white balance at?
Well, that's that's very much up to you. I mean, I did a whole show mixing tungsten and daylight balanced, like daylight coming through windows, and I think I went for a sort of 4,500, which was somewhere in between the two, so that the daylight was quite blue and the tungsten was quite warm. And and I just kept that. I kept 4,500 right throughout it, even on exteriors, so that the exteriors were cold. um
Correct.
and then it made the tungsten lights, when you went inside, they were really warm. And this was, I don't know, and I'm not saying you should do it at 4,500, but experiment, like, run through a range of color temperatures. It's very easy to change the color temperature now in all modern cameras, so run through, light it and light your subject, and then try 4.5, try 5,000, try 3.8, 3, it's simple. And whatever looks good to you, go for.
Thank you so much. Thank you for answering that.
No problem.
Thank you, Kirat. Up next, we have Arijit, Beverly, followed by Lakshya.
Hello, sir. Arijit here from India.
Another one. Good man.
Yes, sir. So I'm actually a huge fan of Vikings, sir. So now, since we are all talking about, sir, how the lighting conditions were, sir, I want to ask you a question. Sir, back then when you started working in films, when you started working with the camera, so when you actually went and shot the films which were in, like not the exterior part, the interior part. So how difficult were the lighting conditions back then? Because right now, today, everything is available. Artificial lights and everything is pretty easily available. How difficult was it back then when you used to shoot interiors?
Okay, well, one of my most difficult lighting challenges was actually in India, in shooting east, or I can't remember, west is west. But the director, the very first day, we were in this small Indian farmhouse out in the country with a family. There was about 8 people dotted around the room. And on the recce, the director said to me, "I'd like to shoot this, but I don't want to use lights in here. I just want to be able to move around." And I thought, oh, that was the last thing I wanted to hear, with 8 people in a room. But luckily, I was in India. So what I did was, this isn't really answering your question, but just because you're Indian, I thought I'd say it anyway.
Okay, sir.
I put some mirrors outside the window, and I hung muslin on the windows, and I directed. The main thing was to keep the sparks. I think there was 4 windows. I had to keep them awake because they tended to sort of drift off, and the sun would move, and then the light. But anyway, apart from that, that's how I lit it. And to answer your question, so there was no lights on the floor, and it looked, actually, I was really pleased with it. It looked very natural. When you start lighting, you as I said, you learn, you from using 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, you slowly build it up. And I believe that you don't need a lot of lights to make something look good. You go into a room, you look at how the room's set. If it's a daylight scene, you have a window. Where's the light coming from? It's coming from the window. So you use the window. If you need to fill in, if the person's got their back to the window, well, then obviously you could use 1 light outside and a bounce card inside, and that might be it, And if that's not enough, well, you fill that in with something soft inside, like a sky panel or whatever. and that's really, and I mean, I know that you didn't have sky panels 20 years ago, but you had a zap and you put a bit of blue on the zap, or you had a bounce card and you bounced a light off it, a redhead or a blonde, or the most simple lights. You just make them work for you, and it's still the same. It's just you have more choice now.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
And also, actually, the
Yes, sir.
cameras now are so much more sensitive. I've been shooting. I had to move away from Alexa because I was doing Netflix shows, and their baseline was 4K, which I disagree with, but that's not my choice. So I've been shooting for the last year. I've been using a Sony Venice, and that now is rated. You can rate that at 2,500. There's not a film stock in the world that you can rate at 2,500.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for asking that question, Arijit. Up next, we have Beverly, then Lakshya. Don't forget, folks, we're going to take a few more questions for the recording, but after that, after we end the recording, we'll take more questions for Peter. So we're going to go with Beverly next. Hey, Beverly, can you hear us?
Hi.
Hi. From
Hi,
Canada.
Peter.
Beverly from Canada, right?
Okay, yes, I'm from Canada, Toronto. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Beverly.
My question is, because I've been working with films here, 3 films, and my question is, the director has the creative vision, but it's the cinematographer who has the technical expertise. At times, it can be quite a challenge to have a happy compromise between the vision and the technical capability. So how do you go about that, considering all the chaos on set, plus all the egos working on the set?
Yeah, I mean, well, hopefully long before you've got to the set, you've talked this out with the director. And, I will have, if there are limitations to what I think I can do or what can be done to achieve his or her desires, I would have expressed that long before I get to the set. I don't want to be talking about how we're going to shoot it when we, apart from the obvious thing of blocking and seeing where the actors go, and it's never everything. You can talk about it until the cows come home, but it's never going to be exactly as you talk about it. You have to be able to busk a little bit clever, and things are going to change, I remember doing a film in Ireland with a really good friend of mine. I mean, he drives me insane. He's a director, very talented. And we went to visit this big building. I'd say big hallway, a big open hall, about 6 times. Every time we were going to shoot one way. Now, luckily, the Sparks had fucked up and rigged their lights the other way, okay? And when we went to that, this is the only time this has ever happened, but we went in and I saw Damien and he was looking around, and he said, I think I'm going to shoot it this way, which was the opposite way to what he'd said.
Uh-huh.
And at this stage, I was shitting myself because I thought all the lights were set for the other way. And I said, Damien, inspirational. So I got out of the far, and he changed it around. And anyway. So, but that could happen. That happens, And if that happens, you just have to deal with it. And if you can't deal with it, well then you have a row.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. Good to meet you. Up next, we have Lakshya, then Nishant. Lakshya, you're up.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Peter. Hi, Arman.
How are you doing, Lakshya?
This is Lakshya from India. I want to know that how do you handle the chaos and the calm on the set? Like how to not lose your vision around the chaos on the set in terms of technicalities, basically?
I guess, the truth is I've been doing it, as I said, I've been doing it 35, whatever, 40 years. I can't remember. I don't like to think about it. But, it's not brain surgery. I'm not trying to save lives. I'm making a film. I'm trying to make it look as best I can. But, I guess at this stage in my career, when I was younger and more inexperienced, I used to get more upset and more stressed. But, at this stage, it's only a film, I mean, it's important to me. Don't get me wrong. I wanted to turn out well. I wanted to look good, but, you can't, you can only do so much. And, yeah, that's it.
Also, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
What does shooting in anamorphic mean to you? Like what is it for you, anamorphic?
Well, anamorphic for me is just, I love it, but I want to, again, that film that I worked, my friend Damien, I mean, that was, we shot anamorphic. It was, the film was about two guys in wheelchairs. And to be honest, Damien, a friend of Damien's, was shooting an anamorphic film in South Africa. And to be dead honest, they were quite competitive, although they were very good friends. And that was the reason that we shot this particular film that I shot for Damien, which was quite low budget, relatively speaking, with an anamorphic frame, which was completely the wrong fucking reason to shoot the film anamorphic. However, I thought, okay, anamorphic frame, it's sort of meant to be a comedy. Maybe you can cut the standing people out of it and you draw your attention into the two people in wheelchairs. And I thought maybe, that was the reason for doing it. Cut to, Damien wants to shoot everything on a wide, like 24mm anamorphic lens. So even in these small rooms in Dublin or in these big rooms, you see the world. So it became, it was very difficult. But yeah, and it was the wrong reason. But, the film, and then, oh God, don't talk to me. I could go on about this for quite a while. But it was released on video. It didn't do great in the cinema, but it did really well on video. And they released it 4:3. Don't ask me why. So half of the fucking frame is missing anyway. So what a waste of time that was.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you so much, Lakshya. Good to meet you, sir. We have one more for the recording. We're calling Nishant, but then once we cut off the recording, folks, stick around for more questions to Peter. So, Nishant, you're up next.
Hi, Peter.
Hi.
So my question could be a little irritating for a lot of cinematographers, but because this is a very immature-ish question. But the question really is, if I want to tell a good story, if I want to, create a good image, what would be the thing? Like, is it the technique and the skill, or is it the equipment, like which camera you have and which lights you have?
No, it's definitely the technique and the skill. Like, if you have an eye, you can make anything look good. I don't care, what camera it is, or you can shoot it on your phone, and be creative. You don't have to have the top of the range. There's so many cheap cameras that look good now. So you don't, and cameras now are much more accessible than they were when I started, which I suppose then video was very rudimentary then, and very little latitude, and people sort of looked down on it. And that's why when I started, I always wanted to shoot film, but I learned a lot by shooting it. Those early experiences I had shooting video really taught me a lot. So when the big changeover came from celluloid to red and to the digital domain, like in Ireland, it happened really quickly because all of our celluloid, all our rushes had to be processed in the UK. So everything had to go to England to be developed, apart from a very small 16 mil lab here. So everything the 35 mil had to go to the UK. So you were waiting days, you know, before you saw anything, which was quite nerve-wracking in a way.
Right.
So when Red came in, like it really caught on here very quick, much quicker than it did in the UK. So, and I was used, you know, it was way ahead of what I was used to shooting on video, like 10 or 15 years previous. So, you know, it was good to have that backlog of experience.
Thank you, Peter.
No problem.
Good to meet you, Nishant. Hopefully I said your name right, Nishant. My man,
Yes.
thank you so much for being here. Hey, folks, we're going to cut off the recording, but continue with more questions after that. Peter, before we cut off the recording, where can listeners check you out on social media?
I don't know, really. Where could they check me out?
Do you have an official site?
IMDb
Okay.
Would be a good place. And, or if they want to look at my reel, it's peterrobertson.ie, all one word, peterrobertson.ie.
There you go. Thank you so much for this recording, Peter. We look forward to more networking with you.